Yashakeach. L'chaim u'lebracha. After just hearing the words of the Rebbe that were played on the recording, that the Rebbe spoke how even when 10 Yidden gathered together is a davar she'einei muvan klal, that at such an event and after such an occasion Moshiach shouldn't come. So how much more so when we're gathered globally, b'chol ha'elam kulei, b'chol katzvei tevel, and Yidden are gathered with the sole objective of tut outs to do whatever we can to bring Moshiach, is how much more so is it unfathomable that such an event shouldn't bring the Geulah Amitis V'Ashleima B'Peil Mamish. So I was sure that with such an event, will for sure bring the anticipated results, that before I should have to speak, and it would be B'Meila Geulah Pratis as well. And so this is a davar she'einei muvan klal u'klal. Akopanim, l'chaim u'lebracha, should be akopanim now, the gathering should be peil pulase, the main thing that should bring the seiros by all the mishtatfim, esvaiduyis peilos, like the Rebbe always spoke, to bring to peil mamish, to actually bring the Geulah. There's a machlekes in Gemara about Yeshivah or Tzaddik Gomer, who is greater. One man, the Omer says that Tzaddik Gomer is greater than about Yeshivah. But Rabbi Vol says, "B'mokim shabal Yeshivah imdim tzaddikim gemurim einam yechelim lamed sham." That Rabbi Yeshivah is greater, surpasses a Tzaddik Gomer. The Rambam paskins that Rabbi Yeshivah is greater than a Tzaddik Gomer. B'mokim shabal Yeshivah imdim ein tzaddikim gemurim yechelim lamed sham. And the Rugged Shavar says, what's the mucker of the Rambam? If the machlekes in Gemara, why does the Rambam choose this opinion? Says the mucker is a Gemara in Kiddushin that says, "Amekadesh as Isha al Minas Shani Tzadik, Afilu Rosh Gomer Mekudash as Shema Hira Tshuva Belibe." L'chayra, even if he was here at Tshuva Belibe, he's only about Tshuva. He said al Minas Shani Tzadik. If a Tzadik is greater than about Tshuva, it still should not be a good Kiddushin. So as the Rugged Shavar from here is the mucker of the Rambam, that about Shuvah, that the halacha is like the Mandamer who says, Mokim Shabal Shuvah Imdim, Ein Sadikim Gemurim Yechelim Lamed Sham, that about Shuvah is greater than a Tzadik. The Rebbe asks on this two questions. In a letter to Rabbi Zevin, who quotes this Rugged Shavar, the Rebbe asks one question, that the din by Kiddushin is even Hital L'Shvach, even if he said something that he's greater than what he really is, not only if he's worse than what his condition was, but even if he's greater than what his condition was, it's still not a good Kiddushin. So even if Abal Tshuva would be greater than a Tzaddik, it still shouldn't be a good enough Kiddushin. And then the Rebbe asks another question, that even like the Mandamer who says that Makim Shabal Tshuva Imdim Ein Tzadikim Gemurim Yechelim Lamed Sham, that Abal Tshuva is greater than a Tzaddik, that's with regards to Schar V'Einish. But there's still a chisaron in a Tshuva compared to a Tzaddik, and the fact that Abal Tshuva is Surei Ra, which means he has negative characteristics, he has negative traits. He's drawn to bad, he's pulled to bad. And therefore, since he has that negative aspect, it still shouldn't be a good Kiddushin. And because of that, in the letter, which is printed in a few places, the Rebbe rejects the Rugged Shavar. But in Likutei Sichos, that many people learned this week, Chelek Yud Zayin, in the project Likutei Sichos, the Rebbe only brings the first question, and the Rebbe answers that there's two different levels in Tshuva Me'ava. There's a level in Tshuva Me'ava in which he's greater than a Tzaddik, and there's a level in Tshuva Me'ava which he becomes the equivalent of a Tzaddik. So the question is, but what about the other question? Saf kol saf, even if the Baal Tshuva is equivalent or greater than a Tzaddik, but he still has the chisaron, that Surei Ra, that he has negative characteristics, that he's drawn to bad, like it says in various places. So the Kiddushin should still not be a good Kiddushin, which, how could the Rebbe say the answer and seemingly disregard the other question? And possibly the answer is, in this Sikha, the Rebbe is differentiating between Tshuva Me'ira and Tshuva Me'ava. Tshuva Me'ava, a Tshuva that stems from loving the Aibishter, from a tzimoin and a tshuka, a thirst and a yearning for Elikos, automatically includes the fact that he's no longer Surei Ra, someone who loves godliness, someone who's drawn to godliness, we say, Oyev Avaya Sinura. Someone who loves Elikos, someone who loves Aibishter, it follows, it's inevitable, it goes hand in hand that he's no longer drawn to bad. He no longer is drawn after Taivas Elam Haza and after doing Avedas. And like it says in Tanya, in direct proportion with the love for Elikos is the Miyus Bara, is the rejection and the repulsiveness of Inyoni Elam Haza in general and Avedas specifically. And therefore, in this Sikha where the Rebbe says it's a Tshuva Meyava and there's a level of Tshuva Meyava that's equal to Tzadik, also it includes that Tshuva Meyava doesn't either have the negative traits, the negative characteristics of being Surena. When the Rebbe wants us to live Moshiach, to want Moshiach, to sincerely and genuinely yearn for Moshiach, yearning for Moshiach is yearning for the ultimate gili of Elikos that comes when Moshiach comes, of Vero, Kol Basar, Yachdav, Kifiya, Vaya, Diber, that our physical flesh, our physical nature will relate with and understand and care about Elikos and see Elikos v'nikla kfeida vaya. That's not separable from Moshiach. And therefore living from Moshiach translates in our day-to-day life as meliknish and taivas elam haza, that we can't be as immersed in our enjoyments and our pleasures of worldly pleasures of Averis Chas v'Shalom, because it's inseparable, because because the Miyos is a direct proportion with the Ava, and loving Mashiach, loving the Gili Elikos, and yearning for that ultimate Gili Elikos has to include hating something that's sonui, that's hated by the Aibishter. It says in the Rambam in Hilchas Malachim and Milchamisayim, Val Yarech B'inyoni Hagadis. The Rambam says, don't focus on things that we know about Mashiach, and those the Rambam spells out for us. The Inyoni Geulah Mashiach, the Sugyas of Mashiach, and the Halachis of Mashiach, and the details of what's exactly going to be the process of Geulah. Besides that, says the Rambam, there's other Haggadis that are not clear, that we don't know, that are unknown. Al Yarech B'inyoni Haggadis, don't spend time on those Haggadis that are things that are unknown to us. And the Rambam says, why not? Because they don't bring a person to Yira and Avos Hashem. The person who's focusing on the Haggadis, on the Divrei Haggadah, on the Midrash Chazal about Mashiach, is doing it to gain a better understanding about Mashiach, to be more aware of the world of Mashiach. So the Rambam should say, learning about those Haggadis that are not conclusive is not going to bring you closer to Mashiach, is not going to bring the Geulah closer, which would seemingly be the objective of the person who's looking to do that. What's the Rambam saying? Al Yarech B'inyoni Haggadis, because they don't bring to Yira v'Ava. Seemingly because the koch and Mashiach is inseparable. You want Mashiach because you want Aibishter, and because you don't want something that's sunny, that's heipach ratzon elyon, that's against the ratzon of the Aibishter. Wanting Mashiach is inseparable from Yira v'Ava. The Rambam says something that Einei Mevi for Yira v'Ava is automatically not connected with Mashiach, and therefore those Haggadis are not part of preparing and learning Mashiach. And therefore the Rebbe told us in this Sikha that we just heard, in the historical Sikha of Chavches Nissen, that after everything that was done, what's the problem that we have? What did the Rebbe in such Hearts and Geverte complain to us? That after everything that was done all the years, we're still in Golus. Mashiach didn't come yet. We didn't have the Geulah Mitzvah Shlema. Seemingly that's enough. That's the problem. That's the complaint. That's why everything was insufficient, didn't suffice, didn't bring to the desired conclusion. But the Rebbe didn't finish with that. The Rebbe said startling words, seemingly. Was nachmer is nachalten a Golus Pnimi in Inyonim von Avedas Hashem kemeduber kama pamim. I think those were the Rebbe's words. That not only are we still in Golus, not only is not only did Mashiach not come yet, but we're in a Golus Pnimi and Inyoni Geulah Hashem, because those two are inseparable. Because living with Moshiach has to go hand in hand with living, with appreciating our Ava V'yira, our appreciation of godliness in each way that translates in our day-to-day life. And I'll emphasize, it's possible that someone should focus on Ava V'yira. It's possible that someone should be a Chassideshe Yid and daven barichos and seine emes Chassideshe Yid, but he's missing the main point of Moshiach, and koch nicht in Moshiach. That could be. But the other way can't be. To koch in Moshiach, the way the Rebbe wants us to koch in Moshiach, so the Rebbe spells it out for us. That means that we want, that we kosis, we're ganzen subtresel, we're broken because we want the ultimate Geulah Atzmos, the Geulah Lekos, the way it is when Mashiach comes. And therefore that has to translate in the way that we're living with Mashiach now, through familiarizing ourselves with the life of Mashiach and with the era of Mashiach in a way that's so important, so real to us, that other things become less appealing to us, less palatable to us. There's a story, a Polish Maisa, that there was one of the Polish Rebbes was known as the Triske Magid. He was the son of Rabbi Akiva Wagner, and he was from the very Derheibner Rebbes in his time, many stories about him. And he was known specifically to be a Rebbe, kemenish liegen in Essen or in Schlafen. That's not the way to become a Rebbe. But he was known even amongst the Rebbes of his time, specifically that he was very, very much memayet in achila and in shema. He didn't eat and he didn't sleep. And once Rabbi Mezhebusher met him, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, and he asked him, "For was esst du nicht and for was schlafst du nicht? Why do you eat and sleep so little?" So he said, "I don't eat because I'm too tired to eat, and I don't sleep because I'm too hungry to sleep." He was being deiche him bekash. Rabbi Mezhebusher was known that he he took a strong stance even with the other Rebbes, that they had to comply with him. He told them, I'm going to pull you out of both Elamis. So he told him, when I was a young child, 4 or 5 years old, my father, Rabbi Akiva, once woke me up in the middle of the night. And he told me, Tizechan, get dressed. And he took me in the wagon and we drove, middle of the night. We drove into the middle of the forest. In the middle of the forest, we came to a hut. And my father got out of the wagon by the hut. And a man came out of the hut, a man with a white beard who had a face like a Malach Hashem Tzvakis. And I heard my father go speak to him. And they spoke for a few moments, and I heard my father say to him, "Mis noch nicht great, das ist noch nicht die Zeit." And then my father got back in the wagon and we went back home. And I asked him my hi. And he said to me, "You know that in every generation, there's one person who's Roi, Lias, Moshiach, who's the Moshiach of the generation." My father said to me, that person who had the face of the Malach Hashem Tzvakis, he was the Moshiach of the generation. And he asked me, is it time to come take the Eden out of Golus? And I said to him, "Is noch nicht great, das ist noch nicht die Zeit." And the Triske Magid said to Rabbi Mezhebusher, "Du was gehat has hat tate. Du was gesehen die Panim von Moshiach, die Panim von Malach Hashem Tzvakis." And you would hear, wie dein Tate sagt, Moshiach is noch nicht great. Und es ist noch nicht die Zeit. So, was du gekannt essen und was du gekannt schlafen. So the story has many strange things about it. But one point I think is very powerful and very meaningful to us in an opposite way. That living with Moshiach, and we also saw the face of Moshiach. We did see the face of Moshiach. But we saw the face of Moshiach telling us, "Wir sind ja great, und es ist ja die Zeit. Und wir darf tun alles, was wir können, to bring it and be megalit, because the time can't go on anymore." So that has to translate by us that living in Moshiach, that we're involved and immersed and obsessed and preoccupied with bringing this Geulah mitzvah shlema, take it from Yad Mamish, like the Rebbe said, is in a way that we can't be involved in our eating and in our sleeping and in our Inyoni Geulah. I don't know about everyone else, but I still am very, very much immersed in my Taiva Selam Hazer. I still love chocolate. I still love pizza and vasalasach. But the Rebbe told us that we're able to put it into practice. Mulmata l'mayla. The Rebbe said, "Live with Moshiach tayameh chayim zachu." Learning the Inyoni Geulah Moshiach is not a subject. It's bringing it into our consciousness. It's bringing it into our focus, into our awareness. So Rabbi Moshiach, to bring that reality which is within reach, it's within touch. It's samuch v'nira. It's here. We can see it and we can touch it. To bring it so close that we could live the way we could imagine and know that we're going to live then. In davening, we say, "Reimin ma'iskeil b'greinam v'chera pipiyes biyada." Taich zechap Chassideshe. Reimin ma'iskeil b'greinam. When a person thinks about the reimin ma'iskeil, about the aloofness, about the greatness of the Aibishter, Inyoni, you think how we're going to be sitting in a few moments, and the Rebbe is sitting over here, and all the Rabbeim are going to be sitting here, and all the Tanaim and Ambeiraim and the Nevi'im and the Avis Akdeshim. And they're all going to be preoccupied with Teira Chadasha Meiti takes it with Nig V'Rao Kobasa Yacht Kifia Vayediber. How embarrassing will it be, whatever we're into now? The Hechere Inyanim, the Denidrige Inyanim, Kol Echad L'fum Shira Delay. Like it says Take and the Likutei Teira of next Shabbos of Emer, V'lei Nevish, V'lei Nikolim Leilam Vay. Reimim Ma'iskeil B'Greinam, just thinking and focusing on the Reimim Ma'iskeil, on the aloofness, and that's Maimedu Matzev, that's right around the corner. Makes a cherev pipis b'yadam, gives us a double-edged sword. Lara, to kill, to push away, and to separate ourselves from any possible attraction to something that we know is going to be shameful and embarrassing to us when we're in that Maimedu Matzev. Living with that world of Moshiach has to translate that we're living now in a way that reflects the fact that what we care about is this v'nigla kfei davaya, and like the Rebbe said, that we could have the biggest giluyim in Gashmias and the biggest giluyim in Ruchnias, and nevertheless, as Ayid Gansen Tresel, we're broken up, we're shattered to pieces because we don't have the Gili Shar Hanun, we don't have the Gili Asmus, we don't have the ultimate Gili Elikos the way it's going to be. Take it from Yad Mamash when Moshiach comes. And this is something that could sound lofty. This is something that the Rebbe gives us, and every person can start it on his level. It starts Pashut learning a shir, but not learning another shir, learning it and thinking about it and living it. If the Rebbe tells us now is great to us the sight, if the Rebbe tells us now this is within reach, it's here, we could touch it, we could feel it, we could smell it, we could experience it. So we only have to do our part, and we have to bring ourselves into that mindset. And in that mindset, then automatically we're able to implement it, to cause that our way that we live, that our lifestyle reflects that. As and automatically, automatically the Gili Alikos and the Aval Alikos includes as Melat nicht lieb und Melik nicht in andere Sachen. I want to give just two practical areas where we should be, I think, focusing on this, and we are able to focus on this. In one of the places where the Rebbe speaks so strongly and so powerfully about this, of course, like everyone knows, is the Maimer V'ata Tetzav. In the second half, especially, of the Maimer V'ata Tetzava, where the Rebbe speaks about the Kassis, which is the Kassis of our generation, whereas we have our Chava Begashmias, and there was our Chava Beruchnias, and nevertheless, nobody is satisfied. Chassidim go make these big events and Fabrengens, and they go around Shlichus, and they do everything. Mis nicht ruhig, because his negeya ultimate gilia lekos gilia atzmas the gula mitzvah fashlema take it from me out mamish. And the Rebbe says there's this kosis that the Rebbe says this surpasses the Mesiras Nefesh of the Yidden in Russia. This kosis that even though you have harchava, it's not enough and you're not satisfied because you need to have the gula b'peil mamish. Where is this expressed? Where do we show this that we care more about the ultimate Geulah than any harchava that we could possibly experience? So the Rebbe says, where in the Maimon? The Rebbe says that's why every Yid says every day in davening, that then will be Gilia, right? Everyone knows that. That's what it says in the Maimon. The Rebbe is not telling us that's what we're supposed to think when we say V'sachazenu Einenu. The Rebbe says that is what is being meant and being said by every Yid who says V'sachazenu Einenu dreimal atag, oh yes, 3 or more times every single day. That's what he means. That's what he's expressing, this yearning, this unquenchable thirst for Moshiach that's there, that no matter what harchava you have, you're not satisfied without the Geulah mitzvah shleim. And it's amazing. Not just Lubavitch Chassidim. The Rebbe says every year daven that says 3 times a yeser a day, is expressing this kassis, this amazing tzitreiselkeit of being broken and unsatisfied without the Geulah of the Geulah mitzvah shleim. That nothing matters, nothing else could give us satisfaction, not gashmis, not ruchnis, and of course, veret inyanim from chas v'shalom to sumeira. How many of us are thinking about this when we say v'sachazenu einenu b'shuv chalitzi b'rachim? Again, this is not something that the Rebbe is telling us to do. This is what the Rebbe is describing what's taking place. So this is what every Jew is already saying when he's saying v'sachazenu einenu. What's left is hervas tuzatz. Listen, hear what we're already saying, because we're saying it. Because the Rebbe is proving from us saying it that that's what our kassis is, that's the state that we're in. So take a few seconds when the daven shemnesra, like the Rebbe says, shalish pamim b'yayim oyeser, to hear yishmu az nechem hashepicha medaber, to hear what we're saying, to hear the v'sachazenu einenu b'shuv chalitziim b'rachmim, the way the Rebbe translates it and defines it, that this is this unquenchable thirst and yearning for Gilia Likus bis Gilia Atzmus. When we feel that, if we give ourselves a little bit of time, a little bit of focus, a little bit of attention to hear it, if we feel that thirst automatically, it overshadows anything else that we could want. But we have to hear it. Give a bissel Zeit, give a bissel cup in them. And if I may add, we never spoke about v'sachazenu einenu, never spoke sometimes about a semach david avda chamer satzmiach. We say in the end of davening, an unbelievable yearning of Moshiach. V'al kein nekavel l'cha abaya l'keinu liris meheira b'seferes uzecha l'haver gilula min haaretz l'sakin eila b'malch l'shin daled yud. The whole V'al kein is just an unequal yearning for Moshiach. We're already then waiting for our breakfast, for our supper, for the last Kaddish, taking off our tefillin. Take an extra few seconds. Put yourself into the mindset. The Rebbe gave us the tools. Learn, understand that it's a real thing. Understand what Moshiach is. Use those times that we're given, that we anyways are speaking about it and focusing on it. It should be a little bit more mitayetz, a bissel mer mitpnimius. This should come into our day-to-day life. And it should bring us right away on the bridge from the world of Golus into the world of the Geulah mitzvah shleima. We shouldn't even have to wait till the end of the Fabrengen. Was all right tanzen in the Geulah zusammen mit alle Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. Take it from me, Ad Mamash. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'bracha.